"We need to talk." 5 words. That's all Jessica Torres said when she walked into my office at 11:30 Tuesday morning. No appointment, no explanation, just those 5 words and a folded piece of paper in her hand. She dropped it on my desk like it was contaminated. "I'm Gabriel Rivera. I'm 48 years old, and I just found out what happens when you give 19 years of your life to a company that thinks loyalty is a one-way street." The paper was expensive. Heavy stock, company letterhead, the works. My termination notice, effective immediately. My $75,000 performance bonus was scheduled to hit Thursday morning, exactly 48 hours away. Jessica thought she was being clever, cutting me loose before payday to save the company money. She had no idea what she'd just triggered. Here's what you need to understand about that bonus. It wasn't just money. Back when Anthony Miller founded Central Tech Financial, he wrote something into my contract that nobody bothered reading anymore. Anthony was old school, the kind of guy who believed your word meant something. When he put that clause in my employment agreement 11 years ago, he made sure nobody could ever strip away what we'd built together. The clause was simple. Once that bonus paid out, full ownership rights to our fraud detection system, SecureGuard, would automatically transfer to me. Not the company, me. And without SecureGuard, Central Tech had nothing to offer Pacific Banking Group in their $145 million merger. Jessica had just armed a bomb she didn't know existed. I signed the termination paper without saying a word, stood up, grabbed my jacket, and headed for the elevator. On my way out, I saw her rifling through my desk drawers, probably looking for backup drives or password lists. She wouldn't find anything useful there. Every piece of critical code was locked behind biometric encryption that only I could access. The elevator ride down felt longer than usual. 23 floors, each one representing nearly a year of my professional life. I thought about the late nights debugging systems, the weekends spent upgrading security protocols, the times I'd stayed until dawn to prevent breaches that could have cost the bank millions. All of it dismissed with 5 words from a 31-year-old MBA who'd been with the company exactly 2 years. When I got to the parking garage, I sat in my truck for a minute before starting the engine. My phone was already buzzing. Word travels fast in a company this size. I turned it off and drove home. The house was quiet. Jordan, my 17-year-old, wouldn't be back from football practice for another hour. Rachel, my 15-year-old, was at her friend's house working on some advanced calculus project. Smart kid. Takes after her old man. Though she's already surpassed me in math, I made coffee and sat at my kitchen table, staring at the termination notice. The irony wasn't lost on me. Jessica Torres, daughter of CEO Ryan Torres, had just handed me the keys to her father's biggest deal of the year, all because she couldn't be bothered to read the fine print. Let me tell you about Anthony Miller. I met him 19 years ago when I was 29, fresh out of my stint at a smaller bank's IT department. I was young, ambitious, and honestly pretty broke after my divorce from my first wife. That marriage hadn't lasted long. Turns out marrying your college girlfriend right after graduation isn't always the smartest move. Central Tech was nothing back then, just a regional bank trying to compete with the big guys through better technology. Anthony was 55, a former Marine who'd worked his way up from teller to CEO over 30 years. He saw something in me during that first interview. Maybe it was the way I explained how I'd caught a security vulnerability at my previous job that nobody else had noticed. Maybe it was because we both understood that in banking, trust isn't just a nice word on the lobby wall. "Son," he told me, after we'd talked for 2 hours, "I need someone who thinks like a thief to catch the real thieves. You interested in keeping honest people's money safe?" Over the years, I became the guy they called when everything was on fire. In 2018, when hackers tried to breach our customer database, I was the one who caught it at 2 a.m. during a routine system check. I spent the next 16 hours straight rebuilding our defenses, calling in favors from contacts at other banks, coordinating with federal investigators. We stopped them with hours to spare. When the state regulators demanded new fraud detection protocols in 2019, I designed SecureGuard from the ground up. Real-time transaction monitoring, pattern recognition algorithms, automated risk assessment. It was 3 years ahead of anything our competitors had. When our biggest client, Midwest Manufacturing Credit Union, needed emergency system integration after their previous vendor went bankrupt, I delivered it in 6 weeks. Should have taken 6 months. I didn't do it for recognition. I did it because that's what you do when you're part of something that matters. And because Anthony made sure I knew I mattered too. 5 years ago, Anthony asked me to meet him for coffee. It was a Thursday afternoon, both of us exhausted from debugging a system integration that had gone sideways. The merger with First National had been stressful for everyone, and we'd been working 14-hour days to make sure everything went smoothly. Over black coffee and apple pie at Murphy's Diner, he told me he'd written something special into my contract during our last renewal. "Gabrielle," he said, "I've been in banking long enough to see what happens when the wrong people take control. They gut everything that made a place worth working for. I won't let that happen to what we built. That conversation changed everything." He explained the clause about the bonus and the ownership transfer. "The way it's written," Anthony said, stirring sugar into his coffee, "once your annual performance bonus hits your account, full intellectual property rights for SecureGuard transfer to you automatically. There's an escrow agreement already executed, just waiting for that payroll confirmation." I set down my fork. "Anthony, that's your life's work. Our life's work." "No," he said, "it's going to be your life's work. I trust you to protect it more than I trust any board of directors or some hotshot MBA who thinks they can run a bank because they read a case study." At the time, I thought he was being paranoid, but Anthony had survived 3 banking crises, 2 hostile takeover attempts, and more regulatory changes than most people see in a lifetime. He knew how to spot trouble before it walked through the front door. "What happens if I leave the company?" I asked. "Then you take SecureGuard with you. Simple as that. Nobody can sell it to the wrong buyer or run it into the ground." He leaned back in the booth. "Gabriel, I've seen good banks destroyed by people who think technology is just another line item on a budget. This clause makes sure that doesn't happen to what we built." 6 months later, Anthony had his heart attack. Massive one right there in his office on a Friday evening. He was reviewing loan applications, something he still insisted on doing personally, even after delegating most of the day-to-day operations. They found him Monday morning. Ryan Torres took over as CEO. Good guy, actually. Solid banker, understood the business, respected what Anthony had built. The problem was his daughter. Jessica Torres had graduated from Stanford Business School 2 years ago and immediately joined Central Tech as a strategic consultant. Within 6 months, she was VP of Innovation. Within a year, she was essentially running the technology division despite having exactly 0 experience in banking software. I tried to work with her. Really did. But Jessica saw everything through the lens of disruption and optimization. She wanted to replace SecureGuard with some cloud-based solution from a startup in Silicon Valley. Never mind that our system had prevented $47 million in fraudulent transactions just last year. Never mind that 3 other regional banks had tried to license our technology. "Gabriel," she told me during our last meeting 3 weeks ago, "we need to think bigger, more scalable. These legacy systems are holding us back." Legacy systems, that's what she called the fraud detection platform that had saved the bank more money than her entire division had generated. Now, sitting in my kitchen with that termination notice, I understood exactly what Anthony had seen coming. He'd built a fail-safe, and Jessica had just activated it. I went upstairs to my home office and powered up my workstation. The countdown timer appeared automatically when I accessed the secure server. 46 hours, 23 minutes, 17 seconds. Every second that ticked by brought Jessica closer to discovering what she'd done. When Jordan got home from football practice, he found me staring at that countdown. "Dad, you're home early," he said, dropping his equipment bag by the door. "Got fired today, buddy." He stopped mid-step. "What? Why?" "Company politics. Don't worry about it." But I was worried. Jordan's college fund was healthy, but not healthy enough to cover 4 years at State without that bonus. The kid had worked hard for his grades and his football skills. He deserved a shot at a good education without drowning in student loans. Rachel came home an hour later, full of excitement about some engineering competition her advanced math class was entering. She wanted to study cybersecurity like her dad. Smart kid, but she'd need tuition money in 3 years. "Dad, you look weird. What's wrong?" "Just work stuff." "How is your project going?" She launched into an explanation of encryption algorithms that made me proud and a little intimidated. My daughter understood concepts that half my colleagues couldn't grasp. My ex-wife, Sarah, called that evening. Word travels fast in a town like Springfield, especially when someone with my seniority gets terminated. "Gabriel, I heard about Central Tech. Are you okay?" "We've been divorced 3 years now." It wasn't messy. Just one of those situations where 2 good people figured out they were better as friends than spouses. Sarah's a nurse practitioner, practical and caring. She still worries about me. especially since my blood pressure started acting up last year. I'm fine. Jessica Torres decided to clean house. The CEO's daughter, isn't she about 30, 31, MBA from Stanford, thinks she knows everything about running a financial services company. What about your bonus? That's when I explained the clause. Sarah was quiet for a long time. She's smart enough to understand the implications immediately. So in 48 hours, you'll own the system that makes their merger possible. That's right. Good, she said, and I could hear the satisfaction in her voice. She made a mistake messing with you. After we hung up, I made myself a sandwich and tried to watch some TV. Couldn't concentrate. My phone kept buzzing with calls from colleagues who'd heard the news. I let most of them go to voicemail. Around 10 p.m., Justin Peters called. He's one of my senior engineers, 34 years old. Reminds me of myself when I was starting out. Good technical mind, solid work ethic, the kind of guy you can count on when systems crash at 3 a.m. Mr. Rivera, I just heard. This is crazy. What happened? Jessica wanted to make some changes. I wasn't part of her vision. But you built half the systems we use. The fraud detection alone saves us millions every year. I know that. You know that. She apparently doesn't. What are you going to do? I looked at the countdown timer on my computer screen. 38 hours, 14 minutes, 6 seconds. I'm going to let the contract work the way Anthony Miller intended it to work. There was a pause. Justin was smart enough to know about the ownership clause. I'd mentioned it to him once when we were discussing intellectual property protection during a late-night debugging session. Mr. Rivera, does this mean what I think it means? We'll know in 38 hours. The next morning, Wednesday, I woke up before dawn. Couldn't sleep anyway. Made coffee and sat on my back porch, watching the sun come up over the subdivision. Normal morning, normal neighborhood. Kids getting ready for school. Parents heading to jobs they might or might not love. My phone had 8 missed calls from numbers I didn't recognize. Reporters, probably. I let them go to voicemail. The countdown on my computer read 34 hours, 12 minutes, 8 seconds. By 9 a.m., my inbox was exploding. Someone at Pacific Banking Group had started asking uncomfortable questions about the merger. I found a forwarded email chain that shouldn't have made it to my personal account. Jessica had screwed up the distribution list, probably in her panic. The email was from Lisa Morgan, Pacific's head of due diligence, to Jessica's legal team. It was direct and professional, which made it even more damning. Per Section 12 of the merger agreement, absence of key technical personnel raises substantial integration risks. Please provide current ownership certification for SecureGuard fraud detection system, along with documentation of licensing continuity. Section 12. The technical continuity clause, I remembered when Pacific's lawyers had insisted on that language 6 months ago. It listed 3 people as essential to the merger integration: myself, our chief compliance officer, and our head of commercial lending. If any of us left before the deal closed, Pacific had the right to renegotiate terms or walk away entirely. Jessica had never read Section 12. I'd bet my pension on that. The forwarded email chain showed the panic spreading through Central Tech's executive suite. Matthew Spencer, one of our board members and the most pragmatic guy in the room, was now asking pointed questions. His response was copied to Ryan Torres. Jessica, walk me through this decision. You terminated Rivera 48 hours before his performance bonus was due. The same bonus that triggers the IP transfer clause in his contract. Did you review Section 12 of the Pacific Agreement before making this decision? I could practically hear the silence in that boardroom. By 10 a.m., Central Tech stock had dropped 6%. The business news websites were running alerts. Central Tech Financial faces personnel disruption ahead of Pacific merger. Generic language, but enough to spook investors who understood that banking mergers lived and died on operational continuity. My phone rang. Justin Peters again. Mr. Rivera, this place is going crazy. Jessica's been in meetings all morning. Someone said she's trying to get the legal team to void your termination. Little late for that, I said. There's something else. She called me into her office an hour ago, offered me your job. Director of Cybersecurity, $120,000 salary, starting immediately. I waited. Justin was a good kid, but he had student loans and a new mortgage. I wouldn't blame him for taking it. I told her I don't work for titles. I work for people who earn respect. Then I walked out. Something loosened in my chest. You didn't have to do that, Justin. Yeah, I did. You taught me that integrity matters more than a bigger paycheck. I'm not forgetting that because she's waving more money around. What else is happening there? IT security is locked down. They're trying to access your old workstation, but everything's encrypted. She had 3 contractors in here yesterday, trying to crack your backup systems. I almost smiled. They won't find anything useful. That's what I figured. Mr. Rivera, there's talk about bringing in an outside consulting firm to rebuild the fraud detection system. Some outfit from California. How long would that take? 6 months minimum. Maybe a year to get it to where SecureGuard is now. That afternoon, the news got worse for Central Tech. Pacific Banking Group released a statement that sent their stock into free fall due to unresolved technical integration concerns. Pacific Banking Group is suspending merger negotiations with Central Tech Financial pending further due diligence. Not terminated, suspended. In the world of corporate mergers, that's like a doctor saying your test results are concerning. It keeps all the lawyers employed while everyone figures out how much money they're about to lose. Central Tech stock dropped another 8%. Total decline, 114% in 6 hours. An hour later, my phone rang with a Chicago area code. Mr. Rivera, this is Paul Brennan, CEO of Pacific Banking Group. I hope you don't mind me calling directly. I kept my voice level. I saw your statement about the merger. Yes. My team has been reviewing the situation. We've also been looking at your employment history with Central Tech. 19 years, primary architect on every major security initiative they've implemented. Your reputation in the industry is quite impressive. I appreciate that. Mr. Rivera, I'll be direct with you. We've invested significant resources in this merger based primarily on Central Tech's fraud detection capabilities. Your fraud detection capabilities, to be more precise. Without that system, this deal doesn't make sense for us. I looked at my countdown timer. 22 hours, 31 minutes, 18 seconds. I understand your position. There's something else. We've reviewed the technical continuity clause in our merger agreement. Section 12 specifically identifies you as essential personnel. Central Tech appears to have violated that provision by terminating your employment without consultation. This was interesting. Pacific wasn't just concerned about the technology. They were building a legal case for backing out of the deal entirely. Mr. Rivera, we're prepared to make you an offer. A direct consulting agreement with Pacific Banking Group, bypassing Central Tech entirely. Would you be interested in hearing the terms? 24 hours ago, I was a 48-year-old divorced dad worried about college tuition and health insurance. Now the CEO of an $8 billion bank was offering me a private consulting deal. I'd need to review any proposal carefully. Of course, I'll have something to you within 2 hours. Mr. Rivera, we need someone we can trust with our security infrastructure. Based on everything we've learned about this situation, that's you, not Central Tech. After he hung up, I sat back in my chair and tried to process what was happening. Pacific wasn't just walking away from the merger, they were preparing to poach me directly, which would leave Central Tech with no deal and no fraud detection system. Jessica Torres had triggered a corporate nightmare with 5 words in an office. The proposal from Pacific arrived in my email exactly 90 minutes later. Pacific Banking Consulting Services, 3-year exclusive agreement, $8 million total compensation, with the option to extend. Part-time work, complete creative control over security architecture, and the kind of benefits package that would make my ex-wife's insurance coverage look like a Band-Aid. I forwarded it to my lawyer with a note. Review this immediately. I think we have a deal. His response came back in 15 minutes. Gabriel, this is extraordinary. Better compensation than anything Central Tech ever offered, with protection clauses I've never seen in a consulting agreement. They really want you. That evening, I grilled burgers for Jordan and Rachel on our back deck. Normal family dinner, except my phone kept buzzing with notifications. Central Tech stock was in free fall. Financial news websites were running the story as their lead item. Regional bank merger collapses over executive termination. Dad, Rachel said, working through her calculus homework at the patio table. Some of my friends' parents are talking about this bank thing. Is that about you? Part of it. Are we going to be okay? Financially, I mean. I looked at my daughter, this brilliant 15-year-old who was already worrying about practical things like family finances, and felt something shift in my chest. Not anger anymore, relief. We're going to be fine, sweetheart. Better than fine. Jordan looked up from his phone. Dad, there's an article here that says Central Tech stock dropped 22% today. That's crazy. Sometimes people make decisions without thinking them through completely. Is that what happened to you? I thought about Jessica Torres sitting in some conference room right now trying to explain to her father and the board of directors how she'd managed to destroy a $145 million deal in 48 hours. Yeah, buddy. That's exactly what happened. I didn't sleep much Wednesday night. Around 3 a.m., I found myself back at my desk watching the countdown tick toward zero. The weight of 19 years was lifting off my shoulders, 1 second at a time. Thursday morning arrived clear and cool, perfect September weather. I made coffee and sat on the front porch, watching the neighborhood wake up. Kids waiting for school buses. Parents heading to jobs they might or might not love. Life going on like always. At 11:30, my phone started ringing. I turned it off. At 11:55 a.m., I went upstairs and opened my laptop one last time. The countdown read 4 minutes, 38 seconds. Jordan knocked on my door. Dad, you okay up there? Come on in, buddy. He sat on the edge of my desk and watched the timer with me. What happens when it hits zero? I become the legal owner of something very important to a lot of people. Cool. 3 minutes. 2 minutes. 1 minute. At exactly 12 p.m., the screen flashed. Transfer complete. A PDF appeared, showing the updated ownership certificate for SecureGuard fraud detection system. Owner, Gabriel Rivera. That's it. Jordan asked. That's it. My phone started buzzing immediately when I turned it back on. 23 missed calls in the first 10 minutes. Text messages filling up my inbox. The business news websites were already running the story. Pacific Banking Group announces exclusive consulting agreement with cybersecurity expert Gabriel Rivera. The press release was straightforward and devastating. Pacific Banking Group is pleased to confirm a strategic consulting partnership with Gabriel Rivera, former senior cybersecurity architect at Central Tech Financial, for continued development and deployment of advanced fraud detection systems. This partnership ensures operational continuity for Pacific's retail banking expansion. No mention of Central Tech, no mention of the failed merger. Just my name and the system I'd built, now officially mine. One text message made me smile. From Justin Peters, Sir, I saw the news. Does this mean what I think it means? I called him back. It means I'm starting my own consulting firm, and I want you as my first hire. Technical director, if you're interested. Absolutely. When do we start? Next month. I've got some family time to catch up on first. You earned it, Mr. Rivera. We all knew this day would come. Jessica just accelerated the timeline. Another text came through from a number I didn't recognize, but the message made it clear who it was. Gabriel. This is Ryan Torres. I owe you an enormous apology. I was completely blind to what Jessica did. If there's any way to make this right, I stared at the message for a long time. Ryan wasn't a bad guy. He just made the mistake every parent makes, thinking their child could do no wrong. But some things can't be fixed with apologies. I wrote back, I appreciate that, Ryan. Time for both of us to move forward. Good luck. The financial networks were running the story all afternoon. Central Tech stock was in free fall, down 31% total over 2 days. Analysts were calling it one of the worst merger collapses in regional banking history. One headline read, How a $75,000 bonus clause destroyed a $145 million deal. Jessica Torres had been asked to resign by the board of directors that morning. According to the news reports, she'd cleaned out her office by noon and left without comment. She was 31 years old with an MBA from Stanford, and she'd just learned the most expensive lesson of her career. I felt sorry for her, honestly, but not sorry enough to fix what she'd broken. Friday afternoon, I signed the consulting agreement with Pacific Banking Group. The contract was everything Paul Brennan had promised. 3 years, $8 million total compensation, complete creative control over security architecture decisions. After that, full retirement at 51 with enough money to send both kids to college without worrying about student loans. Saturday morning, I took Jordan and Rachel out for pancakes at Murphy's Diner, the same place where Anthony Miller had explained the protective clause 5 years ago. The restaurant was crowded, families enjoying their weekend morning. Normal people living normal lives. Dad, Rachel said over her stack of blueberry pancakes, I've been reading about what happened. I'm proud of you for what? For not letting them push you around. And for staying calm when everything went crazy. Jordan nodded. I would have been seriously angry. I was angry, I said, but anger doesn't solve problems. Preparation does. Your grandfather always told me that patience and planning beat emotion every time. Is that why you're not stressed anymore? Rachel asked. Smart kid. She was right. For the first time in months, maybe years, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. That's part of it. The other part is knowing you two are going to be okay. College is covered. Your future is secure. We spent the rest of breakfast talking about normal things. Jordan's football season, Rachel's engineering competition, plans for a family vacation next summer. The kind of conversation I'd been too tired and stressed to really enjoy for too long that evening. I called Sarah to let her know how everything had turned out. Gabrielle, I saw the news. Are you really okay with all this? More than okay? For the first time in years, I'm looking forward instead of just surviving. What about work? Are you going to miss it? I thought about that. I'll miss the good parts. The problem solving, working with people like Justin who actually care about doing things right. But I won't miss the politics. I'm too old to pretend that loyalty goes only one way and you're really retiring in 3 years. At 51, with enough money to take you and the kids to Europe if we want. Or just sit on the back deck and watch the sunset. Monday morning, local news crews showed up outside Central Tech's headquarters as employees arrived for work. The company had lost a third of its stock value, its biggest deal had collapsed, and they were facing regulatory questions about their fraud detection capabilities. I watched the coverage from my kitchen table, drinking coffee and reading consulting proposals that were starting to arrive in my email. 3 other regional banks wanted to discuss security partnerships. Apparently, my reputation in the industry was better than I'd realized. 48 hours. That's all it took to change everything. Jessica Torres thought she was cutting costs by firing the old guy before his bonus came due. What she did was hand me my future and prove that experience, loyalty, and actually doing the work still matters. I've got 3 years of consulting ahead of me, then full retirement at 51. Jordan's college is covered, Rachel's too. And somewhere in Connecticut, there's a boardroom full of executives learning the hard way that some people can't be replaced. Not because they're irreplaceable, but because they earned their place at the table. One honest day's work at a time. Sometimes the best revenge isn't fighting back immediately, it's building something so solid that when they try to tear you down, they end up destroying themselves instead. After 19 years, I learned that loyalty without legal protection is just wishful thinking. But competence with the right contract clause can change your entire life in 48 hours.
Some days feel off. Like I'm standing but still falling. A little pain, a little tired. And no one to tell it all to. There are days that feel unsteady, like I'm drifting out of place. Every step just feels so heavy, with a smile I have to fake. A little hurt I keep inside me, a little weight I always hide, and 1,000 quiet worries I've been holding deep inside. There's no one here to tell it to, no one who would understand. So I carry all these feelings like they're slipping through my hands. A little broken, a little lost, trying hard to just get through. All these nights I stay awake with everything I never say to you. I keep walking through the silence like it's all I've ever known. Every crowded room reminds me how it feels to be alone. There's no one here to tell it to, no one who would understand. So I carry all these feelings like they're slipping through my hands. A little broken, little lost, trying hard to just get through. All these nights I stay awake with everything I never say to you. Maybe one day I'll be stronger, maybe I'll learn but for now I keep it buried in the parts of me too weak. There's no one here to tell it to, no one who would understand. So I carry all these feelings like they're slipping through my hands. A little broken, little lost, trying hard to just get through. All these nights I stay awake with everything I never say to you. Don't pity me. My heart doesn't need your mercy. I can still stand on my own. I was broken by your leaving, fell deeper than I thought I would. But pain has taught me how to heal now and survive what once I couldn't. You don't have to look back sadly, don't reach out with guilty hands. What you shattered made me stronger. Now I rise where I once collapsed. My heart doesn't need your pity, not another empty sign. I've got enough strength left within me to rebuild this life of mine. My feet are steady through the sorrow, I can stand through all the pain. You don't have to save me, darling, I'll learn to breathe again. I once begged for your affection, now I've learned my worth in scars. And the man you left in pieces found his own way through the dark. My heart doesn't need your pity, not another empty sign. I've got enough strength left within me to rebuild this life of mine. My feet are steady through the sorrow, I can stand through all the pain. You don't have to save me, darling, I'll learn to breathe again. My heart doesn't need your pity, not another empty sign. I've got enough strength left within me to rebuild this life of mine. My feet are steady through the sorrow, I can stand through all the pain. You don't have to save me, darling, I'll rise alone again. I'll rise alone